For this pod, we wanted to start off and just kind of focus like our big discussion here on Gen Z. I like to call them the TikTokers, right? The kids out there that just doing the weird dances, all that type of stuff. What's interesting, what we wanted to kind of dive into. What did you see? What something before I get into the story? I'll start it this way. See Austin Rivers talking about basketball today.
When they dunk on someone and it's all highlight after highlight after highlight, and now only kids watch highlights. They don't watch the actual basketball game, the purity of the game.
I could say headlines, but just on how kids are approaching the game and what's missing from his time in playing. I did see that.
What's so interesting about that was I don't think he was wrong, right? I think for a long time, and if you missed some of his comments, essentially what he said, especially about guys playing basketball now and guys watching basketball, is like people don't watch it. It's a highlight culture. And because of highlight culture, basketball has changed. Guys don't really know how to play the game, right? They don't know how to play help side defense or weak side defense or do a duck in or when's the right pass, when do you run the offense, all that type of stuff, right? They don't understand that.
I can tell you what they can do, though. They can find that camera point, do the tap on the head, and he's too small, even though you're probably 5'9". I mean, it's just in
front of this conversation. Because of that, because of Gen Z watching less, that threatens the future of global sports rights ecosystem, which is projected to eclipse 60 billion annually by 2024. I'll give you a few more stats out of this article I found again from Morning Consult. 32% of Gen Zers say they watch live sports through authorized streaming services, compared with 28% who watch via broadcast or cable TV. YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok are Gen Z's most popular sources of sporting news. I don't think anyone's surprised by that, but these next two I think were. Nearly half of Gen Zers, 47%, say they have never watched a professional sporting event in person. I'm going to say that again. Nearly half of Gen Zers, 47%, say they've never watched a professional sporting event in person. And then a recent survey of 1,000 Gen Zers between the ages of 13 and 25 found that 33% do not watch live sporting events, compared with 24% of U.S. adults and 22% of millennials who answered the same in a corresponding survey. About 2 in 5 Gen Zers, 38%, say they have watched a professional sporting event on TV in the past 4 months, while 53% say they had done the same at least once in 2022. I'll stop there. It's a lot of stats. I know it's a lot of reading there. That is wild to me, right? And that's where this first conversation of 2023 takes us, is into what is going to be the landscape here. If you have not seen on the news, or let's just even talk, if you have HBO Max, right? HBO Max recently just showed their first live U.S. men's soccer game, right? I think you saw what Apple TV did last year with baseball. They also signed the MLS contract here at the end of 2022. Meta has extended their partnership with the NBA, obviously trying to get more people in the Meta Quest and using their VR enhancement of giving you like a live front row seats to NBA games. But it's interesting to think about, right, Taylor? Like what's going to happen here over the next 3-5 years from a viewing perspective, especially if advertisers and eyeballs cannot reach the Gen Z market.
I mean, it's really interesting. Like you pointed out, a lot of streaming services are jumping into the sports game because they're trying to figure out how can we get these Gen Z, how can we get this new generation of kids to watch, follow, maintain interest, buy, purchase. We can sell ad dollars higher at a higher dollar value. What can we do? I mean, let's be real. Let's just keep it a buck. First off, if you don't know what Gen Z is, and obviously a lot of people, you hear the term, but if it's 1995 to 2012, and also depending on other country, Australia's got it at 1996 to 2010. But you can see the window that you're in. So millennials, millennials take a sigh of relief, take a breath and exhale, because we're not the ones to blame for all of these stats now. They have moved on to the Gen Z because there's a time frame where it was millennials are doing this, millennials are doing that. Case in point, millennials killed the cigarette industry or the smoking industry, so to speak. So not us. Now it's the younger generation, like Sterling said earlier, with the wiggle dancing and all the hip movement and gyrations that are completely offbeat. Makes no sense. No. So the interesting thing, man, is like I said, let's keep it real. everybody does streaming services, but when it comes to watching games, I still don't see the impact that they're anticipating or hoping from these Gen Zers, because a lot of these kids, even though they consume media on TikTok, it's the short form content. I don't want to say a lot of people have ADHD out here or ADD where you can't keep their attention for a long time. But if you look at the stats off of the NFL, and I don't have it readily just in front of me for the millions that they had, but let's just say it started off at 12 million viewing for Thursday Night Football for the new streaming service in partnership under Prime Video or Amazon Prime and the NFL for Thursday Night Football. So the first game, brought in like 12 million. And then as the year went on, granted, they were all terrible games.
I was going to say terrible games. Yeah.
Terrible. Maybe it was, I have to check our sources for the NFL. Maybe it was something amongst the players that decided, hey, if we can sandbag these games, they might try and do away with them. But there's too much money there. They ain't doing it. But it just goes to show you, even with the NFL that has a diehard brand, folks that are dressing up in no clothes in almost 0-degree weather, that type of fan diehard nature that you get fandom. And that took a while to build up as a brand to get that type of fervor and just deep loyalty and love and known support that you can make these moves to a streaming service and have that viewership. I think you're still going to struggle with that when you get to the Gen Z, because even though they are on the streaming services of Apple, your Netflix, and so to speak, that they're kind of cord cutting in a sense, watching stuff on YouTube. If it's not a ping of, hey, this is on